This is me somehow managing to set a world record in the first ever Hatris World Championships. A game like Tetris, but with hats, that looks ridiculous on the surface, but actually has a surprisingly complex and interesting strategy behind it. So to fully explain what the heck is going on here, it's probably helpful to first give a little bit of context. Hatris was a game released in 1990 by the same creator as Tetris, Alexei Pajitnov. Due to complications and contract negotiations, Alexei received no royalty payments for Tetris until 1996, so Hatris was one of the first follow-up games he created to pay the bills in the meantime. The game was not an outright commercial failure, achieving mild success in Japanese arcades on launch, but its bizarre premise ultimately proved to be a turnoff that quickly relegated it to the dustbin of video game history, with the most viewed YouTube video on Hatris being a 20-second review that sums up how most people think about it.
It's like Tetris with hats. What the f***?
And it was for exactly this reason that Vince Clemente, one of the organizers of the Classic Tetris World Championships, announced the Hatris World Championships as an April Fool's joke this year. But there was a twist. The joke would be that he'd actually do it for real. The week before, he reached out to invite several top players in the scene to fill out a bracket, including Dog and Hufflepuffus, who'd made the Tetris World Championship finals in 2021, Kataru, who'd made the Tetris finals in 2011 and 2017, along with being a TGM2 Grandmaster, and Packy, who was the three-time Dr. Mario champion. One of the first round matches somehow ended up being Beastenshen, creator of the World Puzzle League and organizer of tons of Tetris tournaments, versus me, a guy that makes Tetris videos on YouTube sometimes. When Vince first reached out to me, he was straight up about the game's reputation for not being very good, and just told me to practice a little and try my best. And after initially floundering about, I straight up said in the practice chat, I hate this game. But once myself and the others figured out how to play, many of us reached a shocking conclusion. The game was surprisingly fun and addicting. Beastenshen and I played a 3-game set, and the world record happened in Game 3, but I'll quickly focus on Game 1 since it shows all of the elements of competitive Hatris strategy in action. So, somewhat like Tetris, where the goal is clearing lines by making a complete row, the goal in Hatris is to clear columns of hats by stacking 5 of the same hat type on top of each other on a row of little heads at the bottom of the screen. The hats drop down in pairs of 2, and when you put one hat on a higher stack, the other hat is free to be maneuvered to a lower stack. The tournament rules had us start on stage 6, the first stage where all 6 hats in the game are included. And the hats vary wildly on how many in-game points or cash a completed stack earns you, with the lowest being the tiny derbies at 50 cash and the highest being the clunky crowns at 300 cash. We were only allowed to complete one stage in each game to keep the matches short, and the stage is over after 21 stacks of hats have been cleared. So the pressure was to complete as many stacks of the most valuable hats as possible and avoid clearing ones with lesser value. Another component is that each time you clear a stack of hats, you earn a point towards one of the 2 helpers, portrayed as Alexei and his real-life friend and collaborator Vladimir. Both helpers assist with strategy in different ways and can be immensely helpful. For example, in this situation, I was trying to build a crown stack, but the only way to get the upcoming crown over there would be to first deposit a nearly worthless derby on top of a nearly complete stack of baseball caps. So I called on the Vladimir helper who can swap the locations of 2 stacks. Now I was able to discard the derby on a garbage stack in the center and continue building the crown stack. Later in the game, I saw I had the ability to complete 2 stacks in a single move with my 2 upcoming hats, the wizard hat and the crown. Completing 2 stacks at once is known as a Hatris and doubles the cash of both stacks, making it extremely valuable, but the problem was that the 2 stacks were separated by a giant stack in the middle, and there was no way to drop the wizard hat on the wizard hat stack and then maneuver the crown over to the crown stack. So I called on the Alexei helper, which can discard up to 5 hats from the bottom of any of the stacks, and used him on that tall center stack. Now I was able to get the Hatris with the 2 most valuable hats in the game, which was worth 1,000 cash and desperately needed as I was more than 1,000 cash behind Shen. But as luck would have it, he had the exact same Hatris set up at the same time. Shen finished the stage with 6,300 cash, and being down almost 2,000 cash, I would need to finish with 2 extremely valuable Hatrises in order to have a chance. So I tried to get stacks going of top hats, wizard hats, and crowns, only to have my run prematurely end by accidentally stacking a hat so high that it touched the green border at the top. So now you're all caught up on Hatris strategy. Stack for Hatris combos with the most valuable hats, use the helpers to improve your playfield, and avoid stacking up too many unclearable hat piles that they reach the top and end your game. Perhaps the only other relevant detail is that one of the requirements for the tournament was to wear a hat. And since Shen and I coincidentally both ended up wearing top hats, the commentators renamed our match Abraham Lincoln Lincoln versus John Wilkes Booth. So Booth got the first blow, but Lincoln would fire back. In game 2, I started out with a sloping stack with my most valuable hats up high on the right and several garbage piles off to the left. This ended up being ideal as I could deposit wanted hats on the higher stacks while safely discarding less valuable ones. Shen was building towards some combos but had several crucial misdrops with the biggest hats that left him with several high unusable stacks. Meanwhile, I was able to get 2 Hattresses, one with the wizard hats and baseball caps, another with the crowns and derbies, allowing me to take a critical 1500 cash lead. Even though Shen had several more stack clears than I did left in his stage, he did not have the screen real estate left to realistically build the more valuable hat stacks, and ended up topping out with just over 3000 cash and 9 stack clears remaining. I finished the game out with the top hat clear and over 5000 cash, giving Lincoln a little bit of revenge. So now here's game 3, the record-setting one. Shen started out with a series of perfect stacks, no garbage anywhere, and rattled off his first Hattress for an early lead, then followed up with another quick Hattress to climb 1500 cash ahead. Meanwhile, I was struggling to get a handle on my board, trying to create a workable slope with a messy high stack in the center as my garbage stack. It eventually paid off as I got a 900 cash Hattress with the top hat and crowns to pull back within 400 cash of Shen. Shen answered right away brutally with a 1000 cash crown and wizard hat Hattress, but he was using up his stack clears much faster than I was, meaning I had theoretical runway to catch up. My column slowly filled with garbage as I tried to hold out for valuable Hattresses, but I kept having to cash in the hat clears before a combo arrived. I mistakenly thought I had a Hattress with the top hats and crowns, but the visually similar derbies under the top hats made me miscount how many top hats there were. However, by only clearing the most valuable hat stacks, I would gain ground to come within 300 cash of Shen again, with both of us having 12 stack clears remaining. Both of us called on our Alexi helpers to remove some garbage, but Shen had the advantage with a much lower board overall. Shen used a Vladimir helper to position his high crown stack on the far right, which would allow him to safely cash in a crown and baseball hat Hattress for 840 cash and take a nearly 1000 cash lead. With my back up against the wall and on the verge of topping out, I managed to hold out just long enough to get a wizard hat top hat Hattress that not only pulled me within 300 cash again, but finally gave me breathing room at the top. I built a crown setup on the left, but it was trapped behind 2 high center stacks, so I cleared one stack down with the wizard hat stack, moved the other stack to the side with a Vladimir helper, and just managed to get a crown top hat combo over for a 900 cash Hattress to take my first lead of the game. Shen and I traded single stacks as we tried to get in position for a Hattress, and Shen would strike again, getting a wizard hat baseball cap Hattress to move him over the 6000 cash barrier, and finished with a cowboy hat crown Hattress for an insane 6921 cash. I would again need 2 valuable Hattresses of my own to win the game, and made an unfortunate blunder by miscounting the number of derbies in the middle of the stack, erroneously thinking I would get a top hat derby Hattress. The biggest combo in the game is double crowns, which would be worth 1200 cash, but with only 1 clear left, even that would leave me around 40 cash short, making it impossible for me to win. I tried to close things out with one final Hattress, but eventually ran out of room to place garbage and settled in with cashing in a crown stack to finish with over 6000 cash. So history did end up repeating itself, with Booth taking down Lincoln. And the first ever Hattress World Championship would eventually be won by Kataru, who ended up defeating Chris Forrest from Classic Tetris PAL in the finals. So what was the world record? As it turns out, game 3 between myself and Shen was the highest combined score of any individual game in the entire tournament. And since this was the first ever official competition for the game, that means Shen and I would jointly hold the world record for combined competition score at 12,950 cash. Now, I know this isn't the most prestigious world record out there, but given that I'm never going to win big in any of the mainstream Tetris tournaments, I will absolutely take it that among a bracket of Tetris and Dr. Mario world champions and TGM grandmasters, the event organizer and the YouTubers set a world record together. GG's, Shen, we did it. But it's possible that our world record won't last long because a new competitive Hattress scene is emerging. Yes, you heard that right. The first Hattress event open to the public will be happening on Tuesday, April 12th, 2022, and you can find more information through the Discord links in the description. People have already put together ELO charts and everything in preparation for a vibrant competitive community of elite hat stackers. And so now I also officially rank 5th in the world of Hattress ELO. Again, I'll take it. Thanks again to Vince Clemente for inviting me to be part of this unexpectedly enjoyable event, and hats off to Chris Forrest for organizing the follow-up events. I'll see you guys in the next video.